Hey y'all, it's Gary with Go Renovations. I'm putting in this backsplash in this kitchen. Going to get this whole area lined up with it. Right now I've been using the Hupar BLM60G. I wanted to show y'all. I've been using this tool for a little bit and I'm pretty impressed with it. It's a laser distance measure and it does good. One of the reasons I like this one is it's a dual laser, which means it's bilateral. So it'll shoot out from each end here. Hold down the measure button and it'll shoot out to both ways. It's an easy way for you to find center of a wall. Of course, that faucet's right in the way right there, but as you can see, those two 72 measurements, it says 72 and 5/16 and 72 and 7/16. So that's just about centered for a total measurement of 144 and 3/4. Where I just got an error there because I put my finger in front of it. Just got to hold down on the measure button again. And there we go, we're reading 72 1/4, 72 1/2. If I hadn't moved it the wrong way. 72 and 7/16, 72 and 3/16. We're getting closer. It's way too much movement right there. But y'all get the idea. Just little bits of movement will get you back and forth. 7/16, 3/8. There we go. 72 and 3/8. Perfect center. And that's how it's done. All right, now this is one of the not so fun parts, but it's got to be done on pretty much every job that you do, especially when it comes to tile. If you just slap the tile up there, there's a chance that you might be able to get it to wind up in the right place. But lots of times you need to have a plan, a layout for where to place the tile, so that way you don't have a sliver on one end. So like if you got a corner like down there, you might be able to get a complete wraparound effect. You got little bits of other corners jutting out, so you want to get it so everything lines up. You got to take the measurement of your tile, as well as you got to take the width of your grout joint to make sure to add that in. So we got 12-inch tile plus a 3/16 grout joint. So 12 and 3/16 is actually what the measurement that we'll be using for this. Our wall right here, it's 144 and 3/4 inches. Our halfway point was 72 and 6/16, 3/8. So we need to use all those measurements to come up with a sufficient pattern for these tile to lay on, and so that's what we're going to come up with. Like I said, it's not the funnest part of the job, but it's got to be done in order to make sure that your tile lay out. Now, some people say, "Oh, I just set the tile up there and they came out perfect." And yeah, but you know what? That's pretty anecdotal. It's not going to happen every time, especially if you do this in the hundreds of times. Having 5 out of those hundreds that have it lined up properly, it's not worth the risk. It might as well just take the time at the beginning, get your layout plotted out, get it marked up, so that way you know where to start from. One of the good ways to do it is basically get your tile to start from the middle, and then you just reach out, and then that'll give you a symmetrical. But like I said, you also got to take into consideration the wraparound in the corner. If you want to have a smooth effect, you got to take that. So there might be some give and take on some of these measurements to make sure that you get a nice little wraparound. I think it'll match, go with that countertop a little bit. All right, right now we just want to make sure that the countertop is flat enough that it's going to be going straight and true with one tile. This laser level has a couple of adjustment stands we can use. I think I'll probably use this one because it shows it being just slightly off from where we need it to be. I think this will work to get us where we need to be. So got a couple humps right there in it. Don't want to let that tile drop like that. We want to find basically where the lowest, the shortest distance is. That'll be the high point. And then we want to make sure that that is where we bring the line off of, because we can always tilt and adjust the tile to take in more measurement, but we can't really take off measurement from a solid tile without cutting it. All right, here we go. Starting the application of the mortar on there. It's a pretty simple process. If you haven't tiled before, you just got to make sure get it thick enough that your grooves and your trowel will cause the ridges in it, and make sure that you back butter on the tile itself too. And you want to go the opposite way as what your grout lines or your trowel lines go on the wall, so that way the air pockets will catch each other and it'll just form that bond to get the tile to stick. Now I know I could have fully removed all this adhesive left over on the wall here. It'd be all right to leave it for as little as this is, as good as it stuck to the wall. If I pull it off, it's going to do more damage to the substrate. I don't want to have to mess with that, so I'm just going to leave it on there. Go over it. Your mortar will stick decently to adhesives too. It'll tell you what type of substrates that it can adhere to, and adhesives is one of them for generally most mortars or thin sets, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, for this application, it's just going to be a heck of a lot easier just to leave it in place. Doing small areas like this really is a pain, trying to get your trowel to fit in there properly, get enough mortar applied on there so that way it sticks properly. All right, like I said, that was a pain. It's what they call wet work right here. Mortar, concrete, painting, mudding, anything of the sorts. Anything that basically involves water and going in and mixing to get a finished product. Call that wet work. And there's really only one type of wet work that I really enjoy, but this is definitely not it. I'll do it, but I'm not definitely not a huge fan of it. I would much rather be doing something else. But so what the job calls for, this is what we got to do. These spacers are leave-in spacers. I haven't used this specific kind before, but they're narrow, so they'll fit into your joint corners, and you can just leave them in and grout over it. Lots of times for me, lots of projects, I don't even use spacers. Lots of times, I can run it pretty straight and true. Now that's definitely not the best way to do it. Not the best practice to have. You want to make sure that you get everything going 100% as proper as possible. But like I said, I've got some experience doing this, and so sometimes you can be good and go ahead and get your proper grout lines. Now, if people want to nitpick it and go at it with a fine-tooth comb, yeah, they're probably going to be able to find not 100% straight and true, but for the most part, to the naked eye, it's gonna look pretty straight and true to you. Again, it's definitely one of those do as I say, not as I do type of things, where I'm gonna go ahead and say, use those spacers. It'll save you a lot of headache. This wall definitely is not 100% plumb and flush, so we're going to have some slight variances that we're going to have to deal with. We'll just make the best of it. This one's going to be a tough one to balance till I get those other tile on here next to it, but that'll kind of work. Get this other one up here real quick and should be all right after that. And here's the finished look. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. For the overall most part, the wall was fairly flush. There was a couple dip ins and pop outs that made it getting the tile perfectly flat kind of tough. But overall, pretty decent job. Went by fairly quick. Let me know what you think.